Okay, if you've ever managed a large network, you know the feeling, that frustrating lag during authentication. But what if I told you there's a powerful, often overlooked feature in Active Directory that can totally fix it? Today, we're going to demystify the shortcut trust, what it is, why it's so important, and how it can literally act as a superhighway for your network traffic.
You've definitely been here, right? A user tries to access a resource on the other side of the forest, and it just hangs for a second. You check the hardware, the network links are solid. Well, the real culprit is often hiding in plain sight, right inside your Active Directory structure.
I want you to think of your Active Directory forest like a map. To get from a town in one state to a town in another, you might have to drive all the way up to the main capital, cross the border there, and then drive all the way back down to your destination. Sure, you'll get there eventually, but it is not efficient. So let's zoom in and take a closer look at this so-called scenic route. In Active Directory, this is what's known as the trust path, and really understanding it is the key to solving this whole slowdown issue. So what that means is every single time a user requests access to a resource in another domain, that request has to take a journey along a predefined trust path. These paths are created automatically when you build your forest, and they all have one thing in common. They funnel everything through the forest route. And this is where you can really see the inefficiency in action. Just look at the journey that request has to take. It doesn't go directly. It has to hop all the way up from its local domain to the top of its tree, then it has to cross over to the other tree's route, and then travel all the way back down. In a big, complex forest, that's a whole lot of unnecessary digital mileage. But what if you could just build a direct highway between those two towns, bypassing the capital entirely? Well, that is exactly what a shortcut trust does. It creates a direct superhighway for your authentication traffic. So here's the magic. A shortcut trust is a manual, explicit connection that you create between two domains in different trees. It doesn't replace the old scenic route. That path is still there. It just builds a much faster, more direct path that authentication requests are smart enough to prefer.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is straight from Microsoft's own documentation. The entire purpose is to shorten the path. That really says it all, doesn't it? It's all about creating an express lane for your most frequent cross-domain traffic.
Okay, so now we know what a shortcut trust is. But let's look at the two different types you can create, because they're not a one-size-fits-all solution. Each one is designed for a really specific traffic pattern.
You know, it's pretty much as simple as it sounds. A one-way trust, it's like a one-way street. If you have a ton of users in domain A who are constantly accessing resources in domain B, you'd create a one-way trust from A to B. Authentication is now lightning fast in that direction. But if someone in B needs to get to A, they're still stuck taking that old scenic route. A two-way trust, on the other hand, is the full superhighway, speeding things up in both directions.
This all sounds fantastic, right? But you probably don't want to just start building these highways all over the place. So the real question is, how do you know when and where to actually implement a shortcut trust? Well, the decision really comes down to just watching user behavior and finding those bottlenecks. The signal becomes super clear once you know what you're looking for. And here's that signal. It's actually really simple. Look for many users who regularly access resources across different domains. If you spot a high volume of consistent traffic between two specific domains, that's your green light. You've just found the perfect candidate for a shortcut trust. So let's just recap everything real quick. Our goal is to make authentication faster. The problem we identified was that long default trust path that winds all the way through the forest route. Our solution? Create a shortcut trust. And the key decision we have to make is choosing between a one-way or two-way highway, all based on how our users are actually working. And that really leaves us with one final thought. Now that you have this knowledge, take a fresh look at your own Active Directory environment. Think about your users, their workflows. Where are those hidden slowdowns? Where could building a new digital highway make everyone's day just a little bit faster?